Okay, thank you for the warm welcome and for the opportunity to join you. I wish it could have been in person in beautiful St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I was there earlier this year and I love moving around the region. And as you said, Eve, I am from Barbados, but I'm also from the rest of the Caribbean as well. So when Simone invited me to speak, of course, I could not say no. And it's not in my bio, but I also served as chairman of the Barbados chapter of the Internet Society, ISOC Barbados, for 2 years and enjoyed that experience. Hosted Barbados's first and second National Internet Governance Forum. So I understand what is involved in trying to pull together these forums with the support of the Internet Society, the UN, IGF, and so on. So it's my pleasure to be there, and I would endeavor to be there in person the next time, hopefully. But I'm going to go ahead now and share my screen and get into my presentation. So the topic today, the role of AI in cybersecurity, is not really a keynote, it's a presentation. We're just highlighting a few points for discussion that will hopefully inform the next panel that will go deeper into the top topic. Just a bit about the CTU. We are a regional intergovernmental organization and an institution of CARICOM, specialized institution focusing on information and communication technology. And never mind the name telecommunications is in it, but since it was established in 1989, that technology landscape has evolved rapidly. It has evolved tremendously. We're now seeing more advanced networks. So the communications infrastructure that underpins all of this, we couldn't be talking about artificial intelligence without networks that bring us access to these technologies. But now AI is the big buzzword with the launch of services like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and others. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So we are 21 member states, actually. These flags represent 20, but we had French Guyana joined us just a few weeks ago in Jamaica. So we're 21. And of course, we have private sector members as well, the likes of Amazon, Google, Meta, Digicel, Cable and Wireless, etc. And at our structure, we have the General Conference of Ministers, which is the highest decision-making body of the CTU. Those are the ministers with responsibility for technology. And under that, the Executive Council, permanent secretaries and technical officers, and the CTU Secretariat delivers on the mandate that is handed down by this governing body. And of course, I head the Secretariat here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our focus is on harmonized policy formulation. So even in the area of artificial intelligence, how can we work together within this common space of CARICOM, the common single ICT space or CARICOM single ICT space, to ensure that what St. Vincent and the Grenadines is doing is similar to what Trinidad is doing, similar to what Barbados is doing and Jamaica and so on. It makes it easier for us to move data around, to attract investment in the sector because we have common policies and standards and so on. We coordinate regional projects as well, one of the major ones being CARSIP a few years ago, and we're involved in the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project as well, that in which St. Vincent and the Grenadines is also involved. Capacity building, we occasionally, well, annually, I shouldn't say occasionally, every year we offer some kind of training, either ourselves. We've hosted a School of Digital Transformation now for the last 2 years. But we also work with international partners like the US Telecoms Training Institute, the Commonwealth Secretariat, to provide capacity building in the area of information technology. And of course, we'll be looking to offer some training with the international partners on cybersecurity. In fact, we sent an offer out very recently for international certification, ISO certification in cybersecurity. I trust that it has reached St. Vincent and the Grenadines and that we will have a few of you as well. That training will begin in a few weeks. Representation at international fora. So the International Telecommunications Union, we represent the interests of the Caribbean, ensuring that the policies that are developed, the resources that are allocated, that we participate actively and that we help to shape those policies. In fact, next month, there will be the World Telecoms Development Conference taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan. And that takes place every 4 years. And since the last one in 2022, We have been coordinating the Caribbean's positions, formulating inter-American proposals, and taking those forward on behalf of the Caribbean, because not all countries are necessarily able to go or fully up to speed with the issues, but we consult with our member states to ensure that our views are represented. And of course, we see what is going on in industry as well. Who are the new players in the market in the telecom space? We saw, for example, that Flow just launched 5G in Barbados, and this is a very exciting development. And this is something we want to see more of, more advanced networks, faster speeds that would enable new and innovative services like Industry 4.0 and so on. So let's set the context here a little bit. The Caribbean is accelerating its digital transformation efforts, right? There's a multi-million-dollar Caribbean digital transformation project taking place. I think it's in Vincent, Dominica, St. Lucia. You forgive me. Yes, I think those three. And when I worked with the Ministry of Innovation in Barbados, it was the public sector modernization program, 40 million US dollars to modernize the public sector, bring it into the 21st century with online services and all of that. And of course, that was during COVID. And it came in quite handy because you couldn't go to government offices. So those services that were online remained accessible. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, the government has established a Ministry of Public Administration and Artificial Intelligence. So it is one of the first certainly in the Caribbean, that has artificial intelligence in its title, with a very clear focus on ensuring that AI is used across the public sector, but also across the country, even in the private sector. So how can governments help to promote that? So there's a lot of digital transformation taking place. New opportunities come, of course, with new vulnerabilities. As we move these systems from paper-based to online, to digital identities and digital payments, it broadens the landscape, the opportunities for disruption and threats and attacks and so on. AI is reshaping innovation, it is reshaping governance, and it is reshaping cybersecurity. Everything, almost every conference, whether it's an accounting conference, an agriculture conference, there is some discussion of AI, because AI is cross-cutting and it's impacting everything. So of course, it would impact cybersecurity, good and bad. So I remember, again, going back to my days in the government of Barbados, we actually used a company called Dark Trace, and that must have been 2018, 19. And way back then, it was actually using AI to look at network behavior. It wasn't looking for viruses. It wasn't looking for malware. Yes, it could detect that. But what it really was looking at is network behavior. If there's no one in my office at 2 o'clock in the morning, why is there so much traffic? Why is traffic leaving my network? Why is it heading to Hong Kong or to China or to someplace where I don't have clients there? So clearly there's a problem here. So it's looking at network behavior. And so way back then, artificial intelligence has been used in many areas, but now again, there's this excitement because a lot of investment is going into artificial intelligence and people are looking at ways to dominate the market across all sectors. So today we will look at what is the promise, the peril and the path forward for the Caribbean. So AI refers to systems that can perform tasks requiring human intelligence. And that's what excites people so much, is that, okay, can we get systems to think for us or think faster than us, better than us? If you ask ChatGPT to prepare a report, to look for anomalies on a spreadsheet, within seconds, within split seconds, it can churn out the results. So, and you can interact. So, I mean, even now on your WhatsApp, Meta has its own AI, and people are interacting with these agents as though they're human beings. In fact, there's so many stories of the impact that is having on mental health, where persons are asking it for advice, even in personal relationships. So it's systems that perform learning, reasoning, perception, and decision making. And there are several forms and subfields. You hear many different different terms. Machine learning, for example, algorithms that learn from data, right? So example, detecting cyber anomalies. So they're learning as it goes along. It detects, and there are humans that, say it's right or wrong, and it does that repetitively, and it learns as, for example, to identify a cat in a picture, right? Deep learning, neural networks that mimic human brain function. So the same way that we can reason, we can think, we can look at different options, and decide what if this happens, then that. Basically training machines to think like humans. So natural language processing, of course, enabling computers to understand and generate human language. Generative AI, creating new content, text, code, images, or even cyber attacks. So the song, we actually held our annual meeting in Jamaica a few weeks ago, and the theme song, the music from the theme song was generated by AI. The lyrics were actually written by someone who works at the CTU, and they were quite well written. But the music, which was very infectious, was generated by AI, and it was done in a reggae beat, of course, because we were in Jamaica. So we talk about autonomous systems as well, machines that operate without direct human control. So autonomous systems, we all watch RoboCop and those kind of movies where you put a robot out on the street and the robot goes and it can detect criminal behavior. Actually, I was in Singapore a few months ago, and there was an autonomous police vehicle um, roaming the streets on its own. There was no human being with it. It was simply, it had a camera, of course, and I'm sure that camera fed back to some central command somewhere. But there was this robot on the street. I don't know if it had any lethal capability and how it would stop a crime, but again, I'm sure that it was feeding that information back to a um, central location. So AI can be narrow, very task specific, or it can be general, human-like intelligence. So we're currently actually operating in the narrow AI era. So all of the things we're excited about now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it would look like child's play. It would advance so rapidly. And that's why you see the United States, China investing in trillions of dollars in these data centers that can process data much more efficiently. The new chips that are required, significant demand for those because there is a race to ensure that because this will change everything. And so there's a race to ensure that the countries and companies dominate the space, of course. But there's room, of course, for everyone. And of course, for the small island developing states, we have to ensure that we're not left behind. Just a few years ago, UNESCO developed a policy roadmap for the Caribbean. Caribbean Artificial Intelligence Policy Roadmap to guide ethical and inclusive AI governance. So it emphasizes human rights and inclusion, ensuring that AI benefits all citizens equitably. It's a lofty ambition, of course, because we still have citizens that don't even have internet access or access to a device because of the cost. And here is this cutting edge technology that requires so much computing power, so much bandwidth, and so on. Ethical and responsible AI addressing biases, transparency, and accountability. I talked about machine learning. Well, just like humans, if machines are fed data in a biased way, if we equate intelligence with a particular race or a particular nationality, the North, the global North, as we call it, global South, then that bias is fed into the machine, and therefore the machines are obviously very capable of bias as well, just as human beings are. Capacity building, training Caribbean citizens for the AI era. So how do we ensure that our young people are highly skilled in this area of artificial intelligence? And those that are highly skilled want to stay in the region, that they're not skilled and then decide, oh, I have an opportunity in Canada or in North America. So to ensure that we have capacity here in the Caribbean. The institutional frameworks, establishing policies, regulation, and data governance mechanisms. So right now, these systems are using our data. We're feeding them data every day. We do that even with Google searches. We're feeding it data all the time. We're uploading documents, asking it to interpret stuff. All of that is being fed. But what is the governance around that data? Where is it going? In particular, when it comes to personal data, right? So that is and I encourage you to, I'll put the links in here and share this presentation with Simone. CT also, we have a role to play. We cannot sit and ignore artificial intelligence. It is the next biggest thing. And therefore, in addition to UNESCO's roadmap, which we are building on, the CTU launched the Caribbean AI Task Force last year. And the objective is to guide the ethical and inclusive AI development within the region, develop a Caribbean AI roadmap consistent with UNESCO's principles, and encourage collaboration among governments, academia, private sector, and civil society. So the growing cybersecurity threat landscape. As the Caribbean nations embrace digital transformation, the attack surface is expanding. I mentioned that more digital services, more opportunities for breaches, whether it's your tax records, your health records. I don't want to get specific to specific breaches, but there have been breaches to healthcare delivery institutions, the hospitals, which had this is a cyber attack that stopped the delivery of healthcare. People had to reschedule their operations and stuff like that. So the impact is very, very real. And everything is going digital, and this attack surface is expanding. Governments are building digital public infrastructure, digital IDs as a foundational element to digital transformation, authenticating people securely. But digital ID is your digital self in an online world. So that, of course, it may cover your fingerprint, your iris, your address, your date of birth, all of this personal information that, if in the wrong hands, of course, it would lead to identity theft and to all kinds of bad problems for you. Governments are building the digital public infrastructure. There are also online services are increasing, open data platforms. But these attract cyber criminals. This information is very, very valuable. And the common threats, ransomware and phishing attacks on public institutions. You see this almost constantly, threats of ransomware and phishing. And trust me, you don't hear about all of them. You hear about the high profile ones. You hear about the ones where the hackers have deliberately exposed because maybe they didn't get their ransom. And so they put it out there. We've breached Ministry X. We have your data. I just show you a little sample up on screen. And it escalates from there. You pay us the ransom or we'll expose some more data. And this data exists on the dark web where it is traded, right? It is traded, in fact, is often ransomware as a service. People are doing this not directly, but they're paying for this data on the dark web. Data breaches, targeting personal information. So the theft of data, not just locking it up in terms of encrypting it, but also outright stealing it with personal information. And this personal information is across the board. Even your telephone company has a copy of your ID or your passport. It has your date of birth, all of that information in order to sign up for the service. The bank has it as well. So when they have a breach, then your information is included in that. There are attacks on critical infrastructure as well, energy, telecoms, health, finance. So every sector is affected. Cyber attacks can erode public trust and disrupt essential services and damage economic stability. Right? So we're trying to promote digital transformation, trying to get our citizens to sign up for the ID and sign up for online banking and these things. And people will say, I don't trust that. I'd rather have my money in cash. But that's not how the world is moving. You're not going to be able to transact in cash. I've been in London before where nobody was taking cash. Stories that we don't deal with cash. you think about cash, it is expensive to secure cash. You know, it's susceptible to theft, and you have to call a security company to escort it to the bank. So companies are moving away from that, but now digital payments are so much easier. I will also say on the issue of cybersecurity, we are working with the CARICOM Impacts to implement a cybersecurity and cybercrime action plan. And that plan was recently renewed, and it looks at governance and policy coordination, so harmonized laws and national strategies around cybersecurity, right? There are a few countries already that have national cybersecurity legislation and data protection legislation and so on. So this seeks to coordinate and harmonize those things. Capacity building, again, training and awareness factors for all sectors. Technical measures such as the implementation of computer security incident response teams, or CSIRTs, ensuring that every country has a CSIRT. At the very least, they're part of a regional CSIRT. And promoting cybercrime legislation that is consistent with the Budapest Convention. So that's on the cybersecurity side. Now, what is the intersection between the two? AI is transforming both sides of the cybersecurity battlefield. Positive, negative. I mentioned some of it before. AI-powered systems can detect anomalies. I mentioned dark trace. There's so many others out there now that look at behavior. It's the old-time way of scanning for viruses, detecting viruses, cleaning a virus. No, you're looking at behavior on a network. You know, the same way you'd have a security guy watching your property. You know, you have AI appliances watching your network, the movement of data on your network. Looking at privileges for users. Why is this user privilege escalated and so on. It can predict threats and respond in real time autonomously. Okay, it doesn't need human intervention. Machine learning models can analyze massive amounts of network data faster than humans, of course. And AI-driven threat intelligence improves early detection and resilience. On the negative side, the same way that we can use it for good, criminals are definitely using it for their benefit. So criminals are using AI to automate attacks, to generate deep fakes. That was mentioned in some of the opening remarks. So you can have a video of the Secretary General. Let me put any ideas in anybody's head. You have a video of somebody saying something that they didn't actually say. And, you know, as it says, seeing is believing. So it looks like, you know, like the person, maybe a minister, and so on, especially around election time, we see a lot of that. In fact, it happened in Barbados very recently. And it can write malicious code. So of course, AI is actually generating code as well. It can write code in many different languages, and therefore it can write malware. That's the same way it can write good code. Generative AI can be weaponized for disinformation or phishing campaigns, right? So trolling the net, pushing data, pushing information and ads and so on around election time, pushing one particular narrative. It can definitely be used for that. Adversarial AI attacks that manipulate machine learning models to evade detection. So it's like AI versus AI. You know, you're using it for good, but also using it for bad. And who has the better AI code? So it's like an arms race. It's like an arms race. I just want to give a few policy considerations for our leaders. So where we fit in is we advise governments, and therefore really we focus on policy, training on the technical side as well, but policy enables the environment that, you know, gives way to growth for AI and so on. So some of our recommendations is that we want our governments to adopt national AI and cybersecurity strategies. You really ought to have sort of a guiding documents. I know strategies can sometimes be done and they're not implemented and it's a waste of time, but it's very important to at least have some guidance and some direction on where you're going on AI and cybersecurity and how they intersect. Promote data sovereignty and protection to secure citizen information. So the governance around your data is very important. You know, every ministry that has data on you believes they own it and they have the right to it. And so, you know, governance allows citizens to have rights to know what you have, what information you have on me that you don't have. That is, you have information specifically for the purpose in which it was taken and nothing else. It can't be shared with your friend or another department if I didn't give my consent. And therefore, that's very important. We are calling on governments to invest in AI research and cyber capacity building at universities and in training centers. We're also encouraging AI ethics and transparency in public sector and the use of AI, strengthening of regional cooperation through CTU, CARICOM, and international partners, and support multi-stakeholder collaboration involving technical, civil society, and private sector, and the private sector. So just the role of other stakeholders, in addition to governments, of course, we're dealing with the Internet Society, SVG chapter, and you have a role to play as well in promoting cyber hygiene and digital literacy. So even the hosting of this forum today to raise awareness. The room may not be full, but it's streaming, and of course, there's an opportunity for persons to tune in later and be edified in terms of where this discussion on AI and cybersecurity. This is very important in terms of raising public awareness on the topics. So hosting policy dialogues as well, in addition to this IGF, there may be other opportunities to go into schools and address children there. Encourage open, secure, and inclusive internet governance as part of the ISOC's mandate. The private sector can share tools, best practices, and invest in secure digital infrastructure. On the academic side, we can develop regional expertise and research on AI security. Citizens must be empowered to understand and protect themselves in the digital age, especially if we're encouraging them to uptake these services. So AI offers powerful tools for defending the Caribbean's digital space, but it also presents risk. The balance between innovation and protection is crucial. The CTU is working with UNESCO, with the Internet Society and others, and we're committed to ensuring AI serves humanity and security in equal measure. And together we can build a resilient, ethical, and inclusive digital Caribbean where technology empowers, protects, and unites our people. I want to end with this slide. This is my team when I was the chair of the ISOC chapter in Barbados, and we hosted our first Internet Governance Forum. So I'm really excited to be a part of this discussion today, and I hope that it was useful in laying out just a little bit at a high level AI and cybersecurity, that intersection, providing tremendous opportunities, of course, for cybersecurity professionals to be more effective at what they do, but on the other side, also providing those same tools for bad actors to generate code much more faster, to generate phishing emails that sound more convincing, and so on. So it is incumbent that governments have regulations and policies in place that outlaw that kind of negative behavior. Otherwise, it will impact our successful implementation of our digital transformation policies and strategies. So I'll end there, and I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney, for spending some time with us. So you have promised the next time that we have one that you will be here in person, if it be the will of the Lord. So we are holding you to that promise. So thanks again on behalf of ISOC SVG chapter for agreeing to address us on such an important matter this morning. I understand you have another assignment, so you're free to go.
Thank you. I'll rejoin later in the day.
Okay, then.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we heard what Rodney spoke about, and one of the things for me personally, the experts may say that I am crazy, but my fear in terms of AI and its use is that we may end up, because we become so dependent on AI, we will forget how to we may forget how to critically analyze things on our own, and we will just throw it in, say, like a ChatGPT or whichever AI system that they may have, and let it do the thinking for us. And you heard him speaking about deep learning and all that. And so that's my only fear. And I understand the threat. I think it was Marcellus who spoke about the threat to democracy. That is very real. That is something we all need to defend and defend and defend. And so But at the same time, AI is nice, isn't it? I I quite like it as well. I have Alexa. I chat with Alexa. Not to that extent where I think she's human. I just get upset when I tell her to turn on my light and she doesn't do it. But but there are, and she's probably like at the lower level. But as a Caribbean, and I'm addressing this now to Roxanne John, who is in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. I understand that you are preparing your National Development Plan. And I would like to think that if I remember from the last one, Goal 4 spoke about delivery of the efficient delivery of the public service. And one of the things that was used to, it was anchored and it was undergirded, was the use of ICT. So we have now gone past ICT. We are now looking at things like AI. So I'm assuming as part of our national thrust in terms of making life better for all Vincentian, and all is every Vincentian, no matter who you are, big, small, in between, all Vincentians, that as you come up with your plan and as you incorporate it, it should be an underpinning theme. It should be a cross-cutting theme, and it is an important theme because if we don't ensure that it is addressed in our national development strategies, as a country, we may not be heading in the right direction.